there is a news story about you going around at the moment.
Oh, yeah.
That the government's a bit grumpy and they've blockaded you from, is it HYEFU? What's this all about?
So HYEFU, for those of you who are following along at home, the half-year Economic and Fiscal update is one of the two set pieces of the Treasury each year where the government essentially opens the books for the public and allows the public to have a see about how much money we've spent, what our debt is, what our investment plans are, and it allows us to see, for example, the Treasury's economic forecasts for unemployment, for growth, for other things, interest rates, and it gives us a real sense of where the economy is, where the boffins at the Treasury and the Reserve Bank think the economy is likely to be, and do the numbers match with the rhetoric of the government? So the government says things are going better, things are going well. Do the Treasury forecasts show that? Does the government saying we're cracking down on debt? Is that actually true? And so this is one of the 2 times a year, the other one being the budget, where we actually get a chance to do that. And we get a chance to do that with Treasury officials in the room. So what that means is that we get a chance to go, hang on a second, can you explain what that means for that reason? Thirdly, we also get to do that with all the journalists in the room at the same time. So the journalists can ask questions of the analysts in the room, me saying, what do you think this means? And also we can speak to journalists and say, if you're looking for an answer to this question, it's on page 12 or on page 72. Normally every year, the CTU applies for a seat in the HYEFU lockup, and we're granted one. That's a perfectly straightforward, normal thing, where an organisation representing more than 300,000 workers and 27 different trade unions, and we have a real keen interest, both from a public sector union perspective, in working out where the government's going to invest, what it's going to spend money on, but also from a private sector perspective, we have a real interest in working out, well, hang on a second, what does this mean for the economy generally? What's the government doing to support jobs and other things? We've been declined access this year for the first time on the grounds that we're not a financial institution. Now, I would have said that was a good thing, but because we're not a financial institution, we apparently don't need the privileged access which we have had in the past. And so I have personally objected to this because we're now going to find ourselves in the very odd situation where overseas investors reading the analysis from Bloomberg or from ANZ who are in the room will be better informed than workers because they won't have had access to the information.
Right.
Why? We won't have access to the Treasury officials to ask them, what does this mean? We won't be able to put out a press release because we won't have read the books. So the press will be reporting the information that is provided to the financial institutions who might have very different incentives or views to, say, the trade union movement. So and it's a really odd, very anti-democratic thing where we're taking away the ability of civil society to talk to the public about things that mean things to them, like how much money is the government borrowing? What does its tax take look like? What do they think interest rates are going to be? What is unemployment going to be? How much money are they spending on health, education, housing? We won't have access to any of that information until everyone else does, and so as a consequence, we won't be able to talk to journalists and to the public meaningfully when that information becomes public.
I think the question was asked, I haven't previewed this, so I'm sorry if it's wrong, but it's only 60 seconds, and I think this is the Prime Minister being asked about you. Let's just have a listen.
Craig Renney has had his application to go to the HYEFU briefing declined by Treasury. Did Treasury give you a heads up on that decision, and do you support it?
Yes and yes.
Why?
For 2 reasons. One, the purpose of the lockup is ultimately for the media to get advance notice of really important financial information so they can process it, digest it and communicate it clearly to New Zealanders. Craig Renney is not a member of the media. We have traditionally also invited financial institutions who have market-sensitive audiences who also require time to digest that information. Neither is he part of that. I have been advised that both Craig Renney and the Taxpayers Union will no longer be attending the lockup. I'd also just say, last time Craig Renney went to a lockup, He made up a...
Can I just say, I don't know what she's about to say, but the fucking attitude. She might as well do that. Last time, it's almost like a skit. Sorry, we'll just get to the end.
Last time Craig Renney went to a lockup.
Sorry, Joe.
I was just going to say, like, without knowing what she's going to say, it's almost like last time Craig Renney was at the lockup, he ate all the muffins, and then there were no muffins for anybody else. And when I sat down on his chair, he made it sound like I made a fart noise, and I didn't fart at all.
Let's just have a listen. Yeah, I don't get the attitude. Like
accurate.
it's kind of real Mean Girls, kind of, clicky. It's weird from a finance minister.
Is he part of that? I have been advised that both Craig Renney and the Taxpayers Union will no longer be attending the lockup. I'd also just say, last time Craig Renney went to a lockup, he made up a false quote and attributed it to me, and I don't believe that is practice consistent with the privilege of attending a lockup.
All right. So you're being slapped over the wrist for what? Do you have any idea what she's talking about? What's the fake quote and stuff?
So we put out this was the financial statements of government. We put out a press release, and immediately afterwards, the financial statements of government, and we attributed a quote to Nicola, which due to a formatting error had a wrong number in it. It was her words. It was just the wrong number. We then, when we were told about it, we changed it, and we, on the press release, told everyone else that we had made an error, and this was the correct press release to use. There's no conspiracy. We weren't deliberately trying to mislead anyone. There's enough information in the government documents for us to be able to say lots of things without us needing to mislead. Yeah. And it's not in anyone's interests for us to mislead anyone. So this is just simply, to me, this is just another excuse for a reason why we're not allowed in the lockup. And it also, in the advice that was given to me by the Treasury, as to why I was not allowed in the lockup, that certainly wasn't a factor in any of the advice they gave to me. It was about the fact that we're not a financial institution and we're not a member of the journal, the gallery journalists. Bearing in mind, we've had non-government organisations in the half-year economic and fiscal update for as long as we've had half-year economic and fiscal updates. And it's not as if it's a full room. I can tell you, they use a large room at the Treasury, and half the seats are empty. So it's not a space issue. It's not an electricity issue. It's not a cost issue. They don't put on tea and coffee. There's nothing else. It's just simply they have chosen to take people who, for example, we may disagree with the Taxpayers Union a lot, but they're perfectly entitled to be able to look at the books and make decisions themselves and to be able to say things to their constituency. We may disagree with Business New Zealand, but they've got a perfectly legitimate ability to talk to businesses. Both of those organisations now would not be able to access that lockup. Child Poverty Action Group wouldn't be able to access that lockup. Tax Justice Aotearoa Action Station, a whole wide range of entities will now not be able to access the lockup, and for reasons we don't understand, because to us it's quite clear we're there to digest information so that when this becomes public, we're able to say what this means for working people and what the perspective of working organisations are for of the budget and of the government books. It's just a bit strange.
A couple of things. I have a solution for you. Craig, would you please do some media reporting on behalf of our business at Big Hairy News? Would you please be a Big Hairy News reporter and then your media? And the other thing I was going to say is if honestly people are being kept out of things for quote unquote misleading, this whole government needs to kind of get rid of themselves in, because misleading every single day.
Well, I was going to say, if any organisation who's had a formatting error is blocked from the Treasury lockup, we're going to be blocking a lot of people.
Yeah.
So there's a real risk here that actually we're doing something without really thinking through the consequences of it, because what we will have is a lot less information and a lot less transparent analysis of what's in the government's books when the books are released. And that doesn't help anyone. It doesn't help you. It doesn't help the New Zealand public.
Chewie, anything to wrap up?
Yeah. So do you respond to Nikki No Craig's now? She's basically taken the podium to call you a liar. Like, is that something you just let lie?
Nicola's perfectly entitled to her opinion. I'm not going to get into whether or not Nicola thinks I'm a liar or not. That's kind of frankly, a bit childish. The more important point is actually there's a lack of information about something really important, which is how much money we're spending. Are we spending the money that we've promised on health, on education? Are we seeing the outcomes in terms of unemployment rising, in terms of climate change, emissions reductions? Are we seeing new state houses being built? Are we seeing the other things that people really care about? The honest answer is we won't be able to tell because we're not in the building. We're not allowed in the building to actually find out. We have to wait. And then once we've waited, that news cycle is gone. We won't be able to comment in the same way. And it actually, it's not about me. It actually harms everyone to not have the ability of organizations like Business New Zealand, we may disagree with them, like the CTU, in the room and able to describe what's going on, not only for their members, but for the public at large.
Craig, I'll get the lawyers to draft up the employment offer, get that across to you quick smart to put you on the payroll, Chewie, the payroll, to be a reporter and a media member of BHN, and we'll go from there. Hey, dude, thanks so much for joining us tonight. Everyone always loves having you on. It's been an absolute blast. Hopefully you enjoyed that as well, especially the conversation around well, not enjoyed, you know what I mean? Found it valuable. And I like your T-shirt. And you said before we came on that the last time I told you to stop wearing suits, and you did. Is that a CTU T-shirt?
That is indeed a CTU T-shirt.
All right. We need to do some swaps. We need to do some swapsies. We'll get you a Nicky. We'll do your Nicky No Boats for a fight back. Deal?
Deal.
I'll talk to you tomorrow. Thanks for coming on, man. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Cheers, mate. You're a champ.